Okay, so we are doing a period 2 review for chapter 1's test, and one of the questions that we had was what a money market is. We discussed that the number one thing you need to know about the money market is that that's where you put your emergency fund. I think there's 2 or 3 money market questions on the test, and where you put it and what the use of it is part of that. The second thing is that your money market pays interest. So it kind of acts like a savings account, but we said a fancy savings account. The fancy part comes because it pays interest. I have money I actually don't have money in it, but I have a savings account with Wells Fargo. Savings account pays me 0 interest. I have a money market account that pays me almost 1%. So almost 1% is better than 0. Okay. Second thing that was asked is compound interest. Now, 2 things you need to know about compound interest. And the first thing you need to know is kind of the definition and what it is. It's different from simple interest. Simple interest would be I would just get the same amount of interest every single year no matter what. So if I gained $100 of interest the first year, the second year I'm getting $100 interest, third year $100 interest. That's not the way compound interest works, because I get interest not only on what I put in, but I get interest on the interest that I've earned too. So if I put in $1,000, yes, I get interest on that $1,000. But if I've gained $500 in interest over the years, I'm also getting interest on that too. So if I'm getting 10% interest, I'm getting 10% on this, and also at 10% on what I've already gotten. And what that does is it makes it a mathematical explosion that really is huge, especially towards the end of it all. When we're talking about Ben and Arthur, we saw that example. At the very end, that thing was exploding. Ben made $200,000 in interest in 1 year, added to his account. He didn't do anything. So that's what we mean by a mathematical explosion. So the first thing you need to know about a compound interest is that it's interest on interest as well as what you put in. It's not just on what you put in, you also get extra interest on that. So the second thing that you need to know about compound interest is that you will have to calculate compound interest. All right, so if I say on the test you put in $1,000 and you got 10% interest, what you would do is calculate this, and I'm not going to go through this too much because there's already a video on Edmodo about this, how to do it, but basically we just calculate it. It's $100, so that means at the end of year 1 we have $1,100. Okay, I'm going to start year 2 with $1,100, and again, if I get 10% interest, yeah, I'm not getting 10% interest on only the 1,000. I'm getting 10% interest on the 1,100. So just a quick thing for your calculators, just so you know, I'd simply type in 1,000 and then I hit the multiply button and then 0.10 to give me my number. So it should be simple math. If I don't give you 10%, let's say I give you 8%, then it would be 1,000 times 0.08. Don't forget to do the 0.08, because if you just did 0.8, that would mean 80%. So when you ask a question about compound interest, those are the 2 things you need to know for the test, kind of what it is and then how you calculate it. Next. Any other questions? We're feeling pretty confident because this is a fairly short review. How about contentment and emotion? That was all the way back. Okay, so let's talk about contentment and emotion. Now, contentment, we use the example keeping up with the Joneses. If you see somebody across the street, a neighbor who always has a new car, you feel like you always have to have a new car. Who always has new golf clubs, you need to have new golf clubs. If they're always going on vacation, you have to go on vacation. And you're not really taking into account whether or not you can even afford it. You're just trying to kind of keep up with them. So contentment is being okay with what you have. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't ever want you to buy anything. It doesn't mean that we want you to be content with ratty old jeans and not, feeling like you have the stuff you want. You're just not going to have everything you want. That's kind of the way to look at it. You're not going to have everything you want. It's okay. Here's an example. If you know iPhones, it's okay to have the 5 and not the 5S. because the 5S is going to be another $200. And you could take that $200 instead and invest it and make it grow. And it actually makes you feel a little bit better that you've got a pretty good phone. 5's a pretty good phone, but it makes you feel better that that extra money that would have gone to the 5S is growing for you. I actually like the fact that my money's growing and that I don't even have the 5S. That's kind of what contentment is. Doesn't mean don't buy anything. It just means being okay with what you have. Emotion, it's kind of tied in with this, but it's really a separate test question. Emotion is, I think, the simplest way to talk about it in the context of what we're doing. Get fired up to save. We're not natural savers. We don't want to save. We want to spend, most of us. And so, you know, I gave you the example. If I gave you $100 today, by the weekend it would be spent. You would find something you wanted. We always have wants. And so emotion is you have to make it a priority. You have to get fired up. You have to actually do it. Because if you just say, yeah, I kind of like what Mr. O said, I'll save, and it's just kind of a meh type of thing, it won't happen. So that's what emotion is. Yes, Corey. All right, sinking fund. This is on a video that I put on there already. That's okay though. Sinking fund is not a complicated term. Let's say that we make $100 for the month. Let's say we're, just make it easy, we are working at McDonald's and make $100 for the month, okay? And I know that over the course of this month, I'm gonna have to buy gas to get to and from work. And the gas is gonna cost me $30. So I have an envelope or a plan to spend $30. So to make sure I have $30, I literally put it in an envelope, okay? And then I know that, you know, the reason I work, I'm not working because it's fun, I'm working because I wanna have money to go do stuff with my friends. So I'm gonna put another $30 for fun. Okay, and I've been following Mr. O, and I know that I need some sort of emergency fund. I'm pretty young, so I don't need too much. So I'm gonna start building up slowly, so I have $10 spent. So we have 30, 30, and 10. Yeah, 70. Well, we're still living at home, so food is probably spent by mom and dad and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. So we've spent $70. But you know what? I have no radio in my car. And I spend a lot of time with my friends, and I spend time going to work, and I really would love some sort of car stereo, and I don't have one, and I don't have any cash to do it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a sinking fund, which in its simplest terms is just a plan to buy a stereo. So I'm gonna call this car stereo, and how much do I have to spend every month? $30, right? Because I've spent 70. So if I wanted, I could make a sinking fund, which is all I'm doing right here, which is creating a plan to spend or to save $30 every month. So if my stereo is $150, in 5 months, I can buy it. So another way to say a sinking fund, it's a strategy to pay cash instead of debt, instead of going into debt. And that's really all a sinking fund is. Any other clarifications on sinking fund? Okay, next question, Dalton. Yeah, CD, you're not gonna see too much on the CD on this test, but you should know what it is. I think there's one question, and then test number 2 will also have some. CD stands for Certificate of Deposit. And basically, it is another way to invest. It's an investment. So that's the first thing you should know is it's an investment. It's designed just like all investments to make your money grow. I mean, that's why you do it. Okay, but Dave calls CDs certificates of depression. He kind of makes a joke. It doesn't really stand for certificate of depression. It stands for certificate of deposit. But certificate of depression because of 2 things. One, they pay a really low interest rate. I mean, if you were to Google what a CD pays, it is very low. And you have to keep it in for a certain amount of time. So this is a this is a chapter 2 word, but I'm going to introduce it now. It's not liquid, which means you can't get to your money. Usually CDs are for 6 months. or they're for a year. Meaning if I go to the bank and I give the bank $1,000 for a CD and I sign up for a 6-month CD, I can't get my money out for 6 months.
Would that make you more
disciplined?
Yeah.
The question is, does that make you more disciplined? And the answer could be yes. But it also, if it's for your emergency fund and your car breaks down next week, next 6 months doesn't help you. Right? And so, and here's another reason why we think it's bad. Maybe it's more disciplined, but you can also get almost the same interest in a money market. And you can get your money out whenever you want. So we don't really like, I mean, I'm not saying, if you love CDs, invest in CDs. But I'm telling you that your money's locked up and it doesn't pay that much. Okay? Next question. Wealth building, let's define that term for just a second. Wealth building. This is tied to the word investment. Okay? Which kind of can be stocks, stuff like that, the stock market, those types of things. And really all wealth building is making your money grow. So if you start off with $1,000, you don't always stay at $1,000. It grows into more money because you've put it into an investment and you're building wealth. Wealth is just money, how kind of rich you are. So you're building richness. That's another way to kind of think about it.
Pre-authorized checking.
Okay, so let's hit pre-authorized checking. There are a couple questions about pre-authorized checking. This is also covered in the video. But pre means before. Authorized means kind of giving the okay. And the checking is just kind of your account. And this is, you should tie this with building discipline. There are test questions that have to do with pre-authorized checking and building discipline. Here's why. If I go to Vanguard and I say, hey, on the first of the month, pull out $500 and put it in the stock market, and they say, okay, it happens every single month. The computer's not going to forget to do it. And so I have all months covered, and I don't forget. That's the discipline. So pre-authorized checking is just a way to become more disciplined in your savings, in your investing. Dalton. Okay. Any other questions? What's our confidence level? Pretty high? Yeah? Feeling pretty good? Okay. Justin, do you have a question?
Negative savings rates.
Yeah, negative savings rates, only know that with a negative saving rate, we in the United States have a negative savings rate, and that means that we spend more than we make. That's really all you need to know. That we, like, when it said people have an average of $3,800, $3,800 in their savings, they have a credit card debt of more than $3,800. So that $3,800, if you take away what you owe, subtract what you owe from what you have, they actually are negative. That's kind of what is negative. There's not too many questions. Maybe one question on the negative saving rate. Instead of borrowing money, use the sinking fund approach to save and then pay cash. Just like our stereo. If we really wanted that stereo, we could go put it on a credit card and have a stereo today. But then we would owe money to the credit card company and be in debt, and a $500 stereo might end up costing us $600 because we had an extra $100 added in interest from the credit card company. So instead of going into debt, save every month, build up enough to pay cash for it.
So my mom said that she's going to keep one credit card, and she said each month she'll use that for like important things like not super important like food and stuff, and then she said she'll pay it back. So that keeps that is still awesome.
Yeah, okay, so a couple things with credit cards, and if this is not on the test. Okay, so this is not, don't get confused. I'm going to teach you not to use credit cards in this class. And there's number one reason why. Because as we can see from all the stats of the negative savings rate and how much people owe in credit cards, most people can't handle credit cards. They end up charging more than what they can pay off, okay? Having said that, if you know what you're doing, they can actually be of a little bit benefit. I'm not going to teach you that, but like what your mom said, we all have credit scores. Credit scores are basically given to you based on how much you owe, how much you have paid, how often you pay, let me start over. Credit scores are given based on how much you owe and your history of payments. So if you miss payments, if you're not good at paying it on time, those types of things, it will lower your score. So what your mom's doing is she's oftentimes using her credit card, paying it off at the end of the month, so that the credit score people are saying, oh, she doesn't have much debt because she pays it off, and she pays it on time every month. We're going to raise her score.
She also said that she got like 2
That's the second thing with this, is that there are some bonuses for using credit cards. And so basically what can happen is, this only works, by the way, guys, if you pay with a credit card for the month, and then you pay it off in full at the end of the month. If you pay a credit card off in full, meaning if you charged $500 and at the end of the month you pay off the $500, then there's no interest charged to you. And what the credit card companies will often do is they'll encourage you or try to entice you to use their card. And they'll try to give you perks. Like, hey, we'll give you points towards airline tickets. We'll give you a little bit of cash back. Those types of things. Yeah, the cash back. We'll give you those things if you use our card. And it's really actually, I don't really want to teach you this, but it's actually a pretty good deal in some cases if you pay it off. But the problem is most people don't pay it off. And those little perks that they give you actually will not be worth it at all if you're paying interest because you didn't pay it off. I saw somebody interviewed the other day. This is a crazy story. They were talking about how they got 2 free airline tickets to London from their credit card company. And they said, okay, how much were those? And I think it was like $2,000 or something like that. They were pretty expensive. Yeah, round trip. And the guy followed up with a question of, how much money had you have on your credit card to get those? And they said $30,000. And again, I'm not a math teacher, but I can tell you that paying $30,000 so that you can go on a $2,000 trip doesn't make a lot of sense if you're paying interest on that $30,000. Now, if I'm only using it for groceries, do I have to buy groceries anyway? Yes. If I'm only using it for gas, do I have to buy gas anyway? Yes. If I'm only using it for the stuff I'm going to buy anyway, and then paying it off at the end of the month, and I get $30,000 worth of points on stuff I was going to buy anyway, then it starts to be a little bit better deal. But for this class, and remember, I started this whole conversation with this part's not on the test. For this class, I'm going to teach you that credit cards are bad because most people can't handle them.
So, what about debit cards? Do you have debit cards?
Yeah, debit cards are separate from credit cards. Debit cards are cards that are tied directly to your account. So if you have $500 in your checking account and you use your debit card and spend $100 at the grocery store, then your checking account will now have $400 because $100 was deducted by the use of the card. A debit card is the exact thing as writing a check, except you don't physically have to write the check. Same thing. Tristan.
What's Chase?
Chase is a bank that also offers credit cards. They do have credit cards and just like regular banking services like checking and savings.
My mom has Chase, and I don't know.
Do you know what Wells Fargo is?
Yeah, my mom had that one too.
Yeah, same thing as Wells Fargo, just a different bank.
So,
Okay, we'll come back to you.
so my sister, she has a credit card,
And my dad pays for it, of course, and everything, but it's a Chase card, and he had to totally shut it down because like she wasn't buying too much stuff and everything. She was just like buying stuff, and like every time she buys something, her like interest or something would go up, and like at the end of the month, the credit card costs like $70,000, which is like every day.
Yeah, you can get into really quick problems with credit cards because it feels like it's free. You know, if remember Dave's example where he walked into the store and he had all that cash in his hand, and then he realized, wait, as soon as I buy this, all this cash is going to go away. And that's pretty powerful. We don't want the cash to go away. We kind of like the cash, right? But it's totally different with a credit card. Somebody says, hey, it's $2,000. You just whip out a piece of plastic and throw it at them, and it doesn't even feel like you paid. Yeah, so. Trust me, guys, if you end up paying cash only for stuff, you will probably be in a better spot than most other people, okay? Again, could you make credit cards work to your advantage? Yes. Could you get some small bonuses? Yes. But most people can't handle that, so paying cash is great. By the way, when we say paying cash, it can be physical cash. But when I say paying cash, I kind of also mean a debit card. I mean, it's not like real paper cash, but it's still paying your money cash. So anything when I say paying cash, it means not taking on debt.
Would you rather have us use a credit card or a debit card?
Debit card for sure, because it's your money. A credit card is the bank's money.
My parents only on business, like they said they could like write stuff off on the business.
Yeah, that's taxes. We'll get into that later. I don't want to get into that too much right now because it's not on the test. I want to try to keep this as a test review.
That was funny because yesterday we started really talking about credit cards and everything, and I went home and I saw 2.5 videos about going into debt and like spending too much money on the credit card.
Yeah, debt. The comment was about a TV show and showing debt. Debt's a problem. It is. All right, at this point, I think I'm going to wrap it up. If you're watching this at home, hopefully it helped to see it the second time. And good luck.